a short story titled as The Dwarves' Offer, created by Duvo.
It was a spring day in the town of Viller. In the border of this town, an extensive forest could be seen where wild animals were living free, or at least some of them. The townspeople kept these wild animals under their care because it is one of their advantages as residing in the forest, which is the meat. But the king was meticulous about his town. He ensured no vicious animals would devour his people alive, so his royal guards were in great look to these wild animals. The king, who was the ruler of this borg, he didn't want any faulty things would touch his kingdom. He drew a line between humans and other creatures residing in this area. Even limited people could enter his town. And the people here have the same minds as their king. But there's an exception. In the forest, just near the town, you'll see a grass meadow with daisies, with a calm river running through the ground, and is soothing to listen alone. It is surrounded by lofty trees, of course. But what's interesting is the enormous tree with a passage on its trunk connected to a huge cave that looks like a boulder. With its size and space, it'd make a perfect place to call home. I called it a fort home, short for fortune home. Why? Because this is just the beginning of the homeless family's fortune who lived in this huge tree with a cave-like boulder. There, a mother with her children, 2 little boys and 1 little girl, was settling in that huge tree. The mother was picking some fruits to eat, the 2 little boys were playing near the river, and the little girl was washing their clothes in the river. After their work had done, they went into the huge tree to gather and eat the fruits that the mother picked. The little girl looked at the table, where there were berries and apples.
I feel like I'm going to puke from eating too much fruit,
said the little girl with a disguised face. The mother looked at her and said,
We don't have any money to buy other food. And you know, we're even poorer than the poor.
Then I'll go shopping again.
She changed her clothes and went into town to find food. The town of Viller was busy, and several vendors were on the road selling bread, fruits, and other goods. It was a clean and thriving town, but people here were entitled and despised the lower class to the point that they made sure no lower class could enter their town. The first step you enter the town seems like a ghost town, but that was because most people were in the center of this town. Every day they gathered in the marketplace to do buy and sell products, but this wasn't the only area where you would see people trading goods. They were anywhere within this town, even in the area where merely few people passed by. If you ask me why is that, for sure, it has something to do with inconvenience since it was too bulky in the marketplace. So, some chose to separate from them. They still sold items, but it may take few days before they sold their goods, unless your products were in demand. As the little girl exploring with her eye around the town, she saw a man leaving the house with a tray of leftovers. The leftover food on the plates wasn't entirely consumed, making it still edible. She approached the guy and asked if she could have the leftover food, which he was about to throw away.
For 3 silver coins is all yours,
said the man. But the little girl had empty pockets, so the man thought she could have it if she would wash all their dirty plates, and then she agreed. She ate all the leftover food on the tray and let her come into the house to wash their dirty plates. She thought the food that she ate wasn't enough, and didn't even have food for her family, so she thought what could be the way. Then she continued walking in the town. She caught a sight of a bread stand in front of the vendor's store. She came into the store and knew it was a candy shop. The seller of the candy shop was the wife of the vendor who was selling bread just outside their store. The little girl thought of a plan on how to distract the vendor for she could steal bread.
Excuse me, miss,
declared the little girl, knocking on the glass.
Would you accept if the sweetness in love faded just because you sold watermelons?
What are you saying? We don't give free sweets here,
said the lady.
Watermelons of sweets to be exact. You see the man over there? He was too busy looking at the watermelons instead of selling bread and thinking about your sweetness,
uttered the little girl, thinking she could deceive the wife. The lady squinted her eyes, looking in the direction that the little girl was referring to.
You mean my husband? Oh, that pervert pig. Raston, come over here.
The little girl kept wiping her hands, hoping her scheme to be effective.
What is it now, Linda?
replied the husband. Then he came into the store. They began to argue when Linda mentioned what the little girl said to her. Now, it's the little girl's chance to steal the bread. She hurriedly walked past at them and ensured she wasn't looking suspicious. Her head quickly shifting from side to side, and at the store and back to the bread stand to divide her attention in her surroundings. She grabbed as much as she could put on her garment and fled in the alleyway and through the open path of Villor. She was fortunate since that specific area wasn't as many people as the center of the town, and so she managed to escape without getting caught. Upon arriving at their house, she put the bread on the table and said,
"Time to fill my belly."
Her mother asked her where she got the bread, and she honestly told her what had happened. She didn't surprise at all when she told her story, for she did it a lot of times. They continued their lunch and ate the bread that the little girl stole, but left some for their supper. The next day, she had to go to the town again to steal food, so she changed her clothes and brought some garments. She thought of not going to the house that she had gone to yesterday, as the food wasn't enough, and she had to wash many dirty plates, which was unfair for her. Instead, she thought of stealing bread as much as she could handle, which at least could last up to 3 days. On her way to the vendor's bread stand, she halted in the middle of the road when she saw a young boy in the distance with a plate of food in his hand as if he was taking it somewhere. The little girl was too fixated on eyeing the young boy that she didn't notice a tall man with a goatee mustache wearing various garments such as a padded vest and a habergeon, with woolen hose in his lower body, carrying a sword on his scabbard with a baldric.
"King's God coming through?"
The tall man pushes the little girl away. The little girl fell on her bottom and looked at him with disdain. He ignored the little girl and went straight to the tobacco stand to pack his cigar pipe. When she put her attention back at the young boy, he was gone, so she continued with her plan instead. Now, she was at the bread stand where she went yesterday. She did another deception to let the couple argue. This time it was much a heated argument which she thought would be a long quarrel between the couple. After doing her task, she quietly sneaked behind them to exit from the store. There she ran in the alleyway to hide and changed her clothes and cover her face with the garments she brought with her. She must be quick to act, for it might result in a failed mission. Fortunately, her knapsack was easy to open and close. Just open them widely and stock the garments, pull it upwards, then there you got your garments inside the knapsack. She wrapped her face, but making sure she could breathe. She glanced left and right. It was a perfect moment to get out of the alleyway and get those baked goods. She bolted through the bread stand like a rat going in the sewer. She thought it was much safer disguising to prevent being caught blunderly. Her adrenaline rushed up as she took the chance to bag all of their baked goods. A little bit more and she could flee that spot, but as she was about to bag the remaining bread, a woman who was passing by spotted the little girl.
"Thief! Thief!"
The couple heard the crying woman outside, so they darted out the store to catch who was it, but before the couple went outside the candy shop to catch the thief, the little girl had already fled away with their baked goods in her garments. It was only the woman who spotted the little girl, but she barely saw her face, which she wondered if it was a person or a dwarf, since she could only describe the height of the little girl. The little girl again passed through the open spaces and alleyways of the town to avoid getting noticed. Some people were looking at her as she passed by, but since they had no clue what was going on or thinking she was playing with the other kids, they regained their attention to what they were doing. She sprinted through their house and let her heart pound back to normal as she was having cold sweats. Meanwhile, the little girl was restocking their food. She heard blaring quarrel coming from the outside, so she followed the voices to where it was coming from. She went through the woods, not far away from their house. Then the little girl took a peek in the bushes as she saw the couple from the candy shop with other people behind them, furiously arguing with someone. She looked down to see who they were rowing to and saw several dwarves.
"Drop the act! I knew it was you, so my baked goods!"
Yelled the vendor.
"Heed the king's warning, lest you incur his wrath!"
The dwarves were in turmoil as the people beset at them. The dwarves kept saying that they weren't crossing the line and they didn't do such a thing, but the people insisted they were the culprits. They couldn't do anything but to defend themselves. But since they weren't able to give the bread back, which they didn't steal, the people kicked the dwarves and spat on them. The little girl was stunned in what she saw, but she remained quiet. After she saw what had occurred back there, she silently tiptoed back to their home to avoid getting suspicioned. Now, it came in her mind not to bother the townsfolk because she might get recognized by someone and might result to punishment. She was fortunate since the bread that she stole could last up for a few days. The next morning, the little girl was creating a spear. She would like to try hunting animals. She picked up the long thick branch on the ground whilst strolling in the woods. There she got the idea of hunting animals. Just in front of their house, she was sharpening the spear she'd crafted. Then he spotted the young boy in the distance with a plate of food once more. This time, she followed the young boy where he was going. Sneaky like a fox as she come after him, not making any blast is a perfect idea for spying someone. He had no idea someone was spying him. She recognized the path they were going. She thought they might be going to the dwarves' village, but what would he do there? She hid on the bushes and took a peep on its branches. She could see the young boy in the village glancing from side to side, and there was no one in the village. Then he threw the food away from his plate. She looked at the boy and the food, utterly bemused by his action. She thought either he threw the food at the dwarves' property as taunting or that's like how he trade foods with them. When the boy left the village, the little girl thought she could eat the food that he threw away, so the little girl waited behind the bushes, waiting if there will be someone who will approach the food. She carefully lifted her head up and gazed out at the whole village. The dwarves' houses were round and made in bricks. It was all white and had a roof like a kid's cap which has moss on it. The path in their village looks well made. Overall, their village is clean and well built, giving a cute and peaceful vibe. It was at that moment where she gazed in awe. She was impressed by the dwarves' build. She couldn't wait any longer. There was no people or dwarves in the village, so she got out from the bushes and ate the food. Now that she filled her stomach, the little girl went back in front of their house to practice using the spear. She planned to hunt animals in the next few days. For now, she would do practice, practice, practice. It took her hours of training to be better at using the weapon. Sweat by sweat was dripping on her face as she kept on grinding, training her body and the spear. It was a tough work for a little girl, yet she persisted until her skills had improved. Today is the day. The little girl was now a skilled huntsman. Well, not totally a professional, but better. The little girl went to the woods to hunt some animals with her wagon. She put a mud on her face and made her stance, hiding in the bushes and imitating the sound of an animal, then whoosh. She flung her spear through the pheasant's body. She did it. She was hopping in joy as she got her first meat. Now, she took the lifeless pheasant and placed it on her wagon. She did another hunting, but this time her target were the four-legged wild animals like a deer. Unfortunately, the strength of these wild animals was greater than her, which ensued on failing to catch one. They would easily get frightened when she got close at them. Hurling a spear was a big no-no since this could cause to lose her spear as they flee with a spear impaled in their body. Until she glanced at a distance, a deer that was walking slowly as if it were enfeebled. The little girl tiptoed to prevent the deer from fleeing away. 1, 2, 3. She hurled the spear and pierced through its body. Cried the deer. The little girl smiled from ear to ear.
Finally!
The deer was lying on the floor, gradually dying. She took out the spear and carried the deer carefully in her wagon, but a huge man came near and said,
"Hands off, little girl. That's my meat."
She raised her head and saw a huge man wearing a white sleeve with a leather vest, breeches and leather boots, and a gun holster. He was an ex-musketeer. There was a musket ball penetrated the deer's throat that the little girl didn't notice earlier. The little girl insisted that she was the one who killed the deer since he wasn't able to get after the deer when he shot it, but the huge man looked frightening, so she gave up arguing with him and left that spot. On her way home, the little girl got a sight of the young boy again walking towards the dwarves' village. She decided to go after him again. The village was again quiet and there were no dwarves outside. As soon as the young boy threw the food and fled the village, she was already on the floor eating the food. The food was fleshier than before, that's why she enjoyed eating the food.
You can have it more, you know.
The little girl looked back and saw a dwarf, a round face with a chin strip on his chin, pointy long ears, horrible large eyes, a drooping skin with deep wrinkles, and his body was distorted, having huge arms like stones, plump belly, and short legs. He was wearing a round-fitted hat, long gray dress with a leather vest on it, and a freakish-looking shoe like it was made of human skin.
My apologies. Did I startle you?
Said the dwarf.
I'm sorry. I thought there were no dwarves here. Was this food yours? I thought of the boy who frequently throws food away.
Asked the little girl. The dwarf shook his head and told her.
Not my thing. Go on, it's all yours.
The little girl proceeded to eat the food, and then she suddenly remembered what had happened to the dwarves before, when she was the culprit behind the bread theft.
I'm sorry about what happened to you. The bread thing.
Uttered the little girl.
I know.
Said the dwarf.
You knew it was me?
Then why didn't you tell them? It would have been my punishment instead of yours,
said the little girl. The dwarf got close to the little girl and sat on the floor.
You don't have to worry about us. This kind of thing has happened before. In the past, we dwarves had power here, but when humans discovered this place, they took it over. They were too powerful for us, so they drove us out and confined us in this forest by drawing a boundary between our lands. Our village was destroyed, and they built their own burrow on top of it. Everything we worked hard was lost. After that, the king warned us to stay away from his people or we'd face death,
said the dwarf. Then he looked at the little girl.
I sense you have a story to share as well, yeah?
I do. My father abandoned us when he married the queen of our hometown, leaving us with nothing but each other. They also kicked us out and forbade us from returning. As a result, we were forced to live as vagabonds, traveling from town to town in search of shelter and work. However, we found nothing, until we stumbled upon a large tree link to a cave, where we decided to settle. Unfortunately, this town had a history of despising people like us. We had tried to enter the town before, but we were met with hostility, kicked, spat upon, and shooed away. So we opted to secretly live in the tree instead,
told the little girl.
I see you are alright, dear. What's your name? My name's Wanje,
said the dwarf.
My name is Sheena,
responded the little girl. The dwarf stood up.
Now, Sheena, how about doing something for a change? We can show them our true power. Even at your young age, I can see you have the stealth. You're cunning, and most importantly, you're good at handling sharp objects. I, Wanje, am a great craftsman with clever ideas. What do you say to an alliance between us, huh? We could be the brain and the huntsman. Unstoppable together!
Declared the dwarf proudly. Wanjie ran into their cave and came back with items, and laid the items out on the ground.
Lunchbox and a dagger?
Questioned the little girl.
Here's how it will work. The dagger is for hunting and the lunchbox is for delivering the flesh. Our goal is to take down the corrupt elite and bring justice to our people. The power of the dagger is to allow the blood to drip from the flesh, making sure the heart halts to pump. Then you slash the meat into pieces. The power of the lunchbox is to deliver the meat from the assassin to the dwarves' burg. In exchange for your skills, we'll provide you with gold. It's a fair deal. You get the treasure, and we get the meat of our enemies.
But how do I know whom to target?
Asked little Sheena.
Come with me.
Said the dwarf, and she came with him. They went into the mountains near the forest where they live. The far away you go from the town, the more you feel the ataraxy of the forest. Hearing the birds singing, the crunch of the leaves, a serene wind that whispered cooler in your ears, the flow of the river was music to their ears. They went up the hill, higher and higher, and you'll see the entire borough of Viller. But it's a bit foggy, for the clouds can be seen as well above the town of Viller. When it's a sunny day, you'll see the people on the ground clearly, but there are times it's cloudy, like today.
Some of the dwarves, including me, often come here to see what's happening in the town of Villiers. We need to stay informed about their next moves, especially if they are planning to harm us. Unfortunately, our skills are limited to crafting. We don't have magical powers to defend ourselves.
Uttered Wanjie.
This is why I saw you stealing from the town. When the shine is bright, I noticed everything, including your every move.
So this is like your watchtower.
Thought the little girl.
Do people from Villiers know about this?
Fortunately, they don't. That's their weakness. They are witless.
Said the dwarf, chuckling. Sheena looked at him with furrowed brow and asked,
How do I know if I can trust you?
Then Wanjie replied,
We can always pretend to be one of the king's people and let us die. The king loves his people.
The little girl took the lunchbox and the dagger and nodded. The dwarf smiled and nodded back. Now, they spent the rest of the day planning for the upcoming days. Tomorrow comes, and here Sheena grabbed a piece of bread on the table for her to eat, and snatched her lunchbox and the dagger beside her bed. She ran quickly near the dwarves' village. The dwarves were there crafting things. She signaled Wanjie as she hid in the corner and waited for the young boy to come. Then Sheena saw the young boy at a distance running through the woods with a plate in his hand. That's surely a delicious dish. She made a stance, crouched his body, and waited for the right time. He peeked on the tree to see the busy dwarves, and 3, 2, 1. He threw the food away. Swish. Then suddenly, a swift wind was felt by the young boy. He looked back and saw nothing, and when he turned back, his head gradually fell to the ground, and the blood in his neck was sprinkling over the little girl's face.
Impressive!
Applauded the dwarf.
It's not done yet. I need to cut this into pieces. You owe me a gold coin.
Said the little girl. The dwarf smiled as he watched the little girl dice the young boy's body. And as promised, Wanjie handed her bag of gold coins when she gave the meat to him.
Thank you.
The dwarves took care of the blood splats on the ground whilst the girl returned back to her house. The little girl now gets back to her house to clean herself. When Sheena stepped into her house, her mother saw that she was covered with blood. She was bombshelled by the time she saw her daughter on the door with blood all over her body, handling a dagger and a lunchbox. She thought something bad happened to her, so the mother asked what had happened. Sheena thought it would be complicated to elaborate this to her mother, and so she told her that she had caught a wild animal. But her mother felt something strange in her energy, so she refused to believe. After long arguments between her mother and Sheena, she eventually told the truth as a sign of giving up.
There's no sign of humanity when it comes to us. It's not something I want to do, but it's something I have to do. This is the best way I could think of, Mother. The oppressed must stand for themselves when no one's with them.
Uttered the little girl.
Where did you get those words? Did they teach you that?
Asked the mother in surprise of Sheena's deep words. Sheena replied,
Mother, if you were put in a sinkhole nowhere to go, the only thing you could think of is how to get out of that hole. There, your brain starts to ponder for you to get out. Otherwise, your bone will be left in the deep dark hole.
Then the mother wrapped her arms around her daughter and said,
Sheena, my child, as a mother, I feel to stand as the grown-up in this house. I feel to let you enjoy your life to the fullest. After your father left us, it was nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do, but there you stood to save our lives. I'm sorry. You have to be mature whilst I can't be the one.
Then Sheena hugged her mother back, whose tears were running in her cheeks. Sheena clenched her jaw and furrowed her brow.
I won't stop until we get what we deserve, Mother.
Said Sheena. She handed the bag of coins to her mother. The mother wiped off her tears and nodded as a sign that she could do her thing, and so she proceeded to clean herself and left the house. She went up the hill where Wanjie told her about their watchtower. It was a sunny day that very day, the wind blew cool air, the forest emanates tranquility, but the town's marketplace was loud and busy. You could see smoke coming out from their chimneys and furnaces. Now, she could see people from the ground. She watched the people from Viller to see who would be her next target. Glancing every intention of those people from above, then there she spotted vile people. She waited until nightfall before she could make her next move. Now that it was the right time for her to bump them off, she thinks of a plan before starting the manslaughter. She went down the alleyways and followed her next target. She hid the dagger in her sleeves, leaving only the lunchbox could be seen on her hand.
Mister! Mister!
Called out the little girl, looking pitiful.
Can you please help me carry a bag full of gold coins over there? It's too great for me to carry it.
The man thought he could fool the little girl and steal the bag of gold coins away, so he came with her. They went to a river in the woods and let him wait for a few minutes. She told him she would just pee for a second since it was a long journey they did until they got in a place where the killings were unnoticeable. Then there she goes, behind him, she swiftly gashed into the man's nape. The blood dripped from the man's neck, and he knelt on the ground, falling with his lifeless body. She then took his clothes off and began to dice his body, and then she put it in her lunchbox. She did 2 more slaughtering before she sold it to the dwarves. Her lunchbox was packed with human flesh, and the blood still leaking in her lunchbox as she walks towards the dwarves' burrow. When she arrived at the dwarves' village, she handed it to the 3 dwarves who were crafting things outside their village, then they gave the bag of coins to her. Perfect timing, the heavy rain began pouring as she got home. She figured it would wash away the bloodstains on the road. The next day comes and the little girl was skipping joyfully to Villor to buy some goods. The bag of coins that she gave to her mother was already bought some food yesterday by her mother. She first went in the tailoring shop to buy clothes. She bought fabrics from the tailoring shop to be woven by the tailors. She ensured that they will wear fine-looking garments made in expensive silk, wool, and linen. The weaving process took so long, so Sheena told the tailors that she will just come back. When Sheena went out the tailoring shop, there were people running to the king's palace. She looked confused as this was a new event she encountered, so she followed those people and saw several people gathering in front of the king's palace.
My son is missing. I looked everywhere, but I saw nothing. Please, help us, good herald.
Told the mother of the young boy, and then it was continued with more reports about missing people. The townspeople were in distress, murmuring with one another, and then the herald stood up on the stone to get the attention of those people.
Silencio!
Yelled the herald.
Hear the king's decree. Tomorrow, at the appointed hour, a grand announcement shall be made, touching upon the grievous matters that afflict our realm. In the interim, our noble guards shall stand vigilant, protecting all corners of our dominion. With particular care for the village of the dwarves, let all good subjects beware. Should you perceive any sign of malice or disorder, bring it swiftly to the attention of our officers. By the authority invested in us, we command your diligence. Thus, this assembly is hereby dissolved. Let the king's words be your guide until tomorrow's proclamation. May Providence watch over our realm.
Then the people dissolved. Some went back to their work and some mumbled about the town's issue. Upon hearing the message of the herald, Sheena, looking worried, ran through the dwarves' borg. She told what the herald announced to the public. The dwarves then made a sudden assembly. They ensured that they won't be caught clumsily, so Wanjia guided her to another passage from the dwarves' borg. The place wasn't far from their village, but it was well hidden, making it hard to find. Wanjia told the little girl and the dwarves that it will be their new meeting place where they will do their deal, such as trading bag of coins to human meat. After their assembly, they departed and planned for their next move as it was getting intense. At that time, Sheena planned her move carefully since the guards were in every corner of Villor. She thought she could use her charm and swindle them to make her plot execute effectively. She used different clothes to disguise herself. And there she did, she created scenarios and used her charm as a little girl to lure a target in the dark places and in the woods. Of course, it became hard for her, for she must be vigilant at all times. But you tell me if this was a little girl or not, because she was excellent in taking them out, it was a killing spree. And yet, not a single person was alarmed by her moves. She killed a hostile drunk man, a rapist, an ill-mannered woman, children who were abusing the animals, and I forgot to count how many of them she killed. But why no one even knew it? The dwarves were expert artisans. They made sure every item they handed to the little girl would effectively take the people out of their lives. And yes, they even offered her something to clean the blood without any trace. Nobody knows how resourceful and wealthy were the dwarves until now. Another day comes and the people were wailing around the burrow of Villor. It was raining tears in Villor. Many people had been missing. Now, most of them were crying whilst walking towards the designated place for the huge announcement, which the herald told them. They made a way for the members of monarchy to come to the stage. A parade occurred before the announcement. How's the little girl? Sheena and her family were celebrating, for it was raining gold coins in their house. They had fine woven clothes, many delicious dishes, bought 2 ships, and even improved their property. It was rags to riches. It was something like it never happened in their life. Hooray! Hooray! They are enjoying their present life now. The little girl refused to halt her doings. She said it was a job for her. Then something was bothering her, as if she did something missing. She went back and forth while spinning her dagger in her hand and hardly thought, what was it? No specific idea was crossing in her head, until she sat down on the grass, looked up and noticed a black smoke coming out from the town's furnace. She touched her lips using the dagger, then there a piece of memory came into her mind. It was the boastful royal guard who thrusted her before. How could that memory slip away? It was surely the time for her to take revenge, since there will be a huge announcement that very day. She still could remember his face, and so she plotted another move for her next target is the king's guard. She went to Villers looking admirable, she looked rich. The townspeople looking gloomy whilst the parade are transpiring. She couldn't get a view, so she elbowed her way to the front to get a view of the royal parade. People didn't complain, for she looked dignified. It was at that moment when the little prince saw the little girl. A spark created when they caught each other's eyes. The little prince smiled and waved at her, and she did the same. After the prince went by in the parade and admiring the little prince, she quickly shifted her attention to her scheme. She got the tobacco in her lunchbox, and then stepped in front to get the arrogant royal guard's attention. When she saw her target at a distance, she began in her act, pretending she was selling a tobacco.
Tobacco! Tobacco for sale!
The royal guard noticed the little girl was over the line, so he approached the little girl, snatched the tobacco and pushed her away.
You're over the line. Back off! A child like you forbidden selling tobacco products. It's a shame you're wasting your beauty on the occasion,
told the boastful royal guard and winked at her. She stared at him with scorn. The king saw what happened between the guard and the little girl.
Eyes on front!
Ordered the king. Then the boastful royal guard got startled and he resumed to march. As for her scheme, Sheena secretly followed the guard as they continued to march. Then the parade ended and it was time for the proclamation. They all gathered up and wait for the herald to speak. The king and his officials were already on their seat and were prepared for the proclamation.
Hark, people of Villiers! I, the king's herald, bring tidings of unease. Many of our kin are lost, and though your missing person flyers blanket the town, none have been found. Their vanishing was unwitnessed, a strange occurrence never before seen in Villiers. In light of this mystery, suspicion now turns towards the dwarven folk. Let their movements be observed. The king's command that this matter be investigated and the missing returned.
Then the announcement continued. The people were listening attentively. The haughty royal guard was on the backstage. He got bored guarding the backstage and thought of having a cigar break. He carefully left his spot to light his cigar pipe and went near the woods to avoid getting caught. The tobacco that he used was the tobacco he snatched to a little girl. He got it on his pocket and packed his cigar pipe, inhaled it, then exhaled it. The little girl was just behind the guard's back waiting for him to fall on the ground. Little did he know that the tobacco was made by the dwarves. Everything was going normal until he began to feel a numbing sensation on his lips and mouth. He kept on coughing until he vomited. His mouth felt like burning and he couldn't breathe. He began to lose his balance until he fell on the ground, catching for his breath. No one could hear his voice, for they were all attentive in the herald's announcement. The little girl waited for him to stop breathing. She then checked his pulse and not a single beat was thumping. She dragged his lifeless body far away from the proclamation and then, there she did her job. She laid a blanket which dries out fast when any liquid poured onto it. It was made by the dwarves. There she carried his head and pulled onto the blanket. She took his uniform off and kept it aside. She first took his limbs off and started to mince. Next was the body, which she cut in half, and the head she peeled the scalp and left the brain untouched, which she put on the plate and delivered it to the dwarves. Her magnificent dress was covered with blood. Now she had to return back home to clean herself. She ran off right after trading with the dwarves into their house, then came back to the town. She was just right in time. The proclamation was about to finish.
By the royal decree, security within our town shall be doubled, with patrols active day and night. A curfew is now in effect. Remain indoors after the 9th hour of the evening. Our borders are closed. None shall enter or leave Villiers. Moreover, the borders of the dwarven village will be guarded ceaselessly. These measures shall stand until the missing are found and this trouble ends. Hear this now, to all of which who will find the culprit or culprits of this matter will be guerdoned greatly. Heed this order by the king's command.
And the people clapped in the announcement, giving hope into their worry. When the monarchy began to exit their parade, the lieutenant noticed a gap between the marching royal guards. She knew someone was missing, and so she quickly thought of a solution, signaling the royal guards to close the gap. When the parade concluded and they were back to the palace, the lieutenant reported the issue to her superiors, and so all the royal guards had been called by the major. They did a thorough investigation when they didn't find out the reason why there was a missing guard. They had been asked one by one, but none answered worthy. They were able to identify who was the missing royal guard, so they thought of contacting his family to have more queries. It took days before they realized that the missing royal guard was indeed a missing person. They even contacted his family but got no clue where he was. This news scattered throughout Villor, including the monarchy knew it. The king, who saw what occurred before the proclamation, he thought that might be the cause of his vanishing, but he remained quiet since there was no absolute certainty. While everyone was busy in the issue, the little girl was still active in manslaughtering, but her killings had been decreased because of the new security that was enforced following the proclamation. She had to be extra careful now, otherwise she might get caught. One day one of the dwarves came into Sheena's house. She told her that there will be an upcoming jubilee in their hometown. She asked for 3 whole roasted children to be prepared for their jubilee, aside from the chopped human meat. They had an agreement that there will be several dwarves who will come along with her to carry the 3 lifeless children into their secret passage to their village. It will be a great reward if she did the mission successfully. Sheena was delighted about the news, for it would make them richer, which they could now flee from the borough of Villor. The following night Sheena and the 12 dwarves were on the alley peeking on the guards who were patrolling. It was already curfew hours and they targeted the house near the woods where there were 5 children living in that house with their guardians. They made a scheme to distract the royal guards patrolling the area. They walked furtively as they moved from spot to spot for their scheme. 2 dwarves came near the trash bin on the alleyway. They were rummaging noisily through the trash bin to make noise, hoping the royal guards would hear them and realize someone was there. They even screamed to add a drama. Only one patrolling royal guard was left and the other sprinted through the trash bin where the noise was heard. Now, it would be easy for them to slip by since the royal guard is now alone. The tension in their act increased. Their eyes were widened to keep hyper-vigilant at all times. Their heart was pounding quickly, not letting their perspirant drop on the floor. The window was unlocked, which was a great advantage for them to come in. They managed to get in the house by entering in the window. It was the children's room, and there they saw the 5 children sleeping on their feathery bed.
Come on now, size,
said the dwarf, sounding rushed.
It's hard to pick the best meat if you are in a hurry. Quit being fussy. Just make a decision. You don't need to analyze it so much.
They successfully escaped the house with 3 children carrying over their head. When they were outside, the guards were on their way to their spot to continue patrolling, so they ran through the woods. Luckily, the royal guards didn't look at it even they heard it, for they assumed it was just an animal like they thought in the trash bin noise. They went far away from the town. There she plunged the dagger into their abdomen, severing the aorta, and they succumbed to their injuries shortly after. As usual, they weren't surprised about the blood splashing on their faces. The little girl was glad that she successfully completed the mission, but a bicker arises.
I told you! You must wait for me to decide. The other kid was much better than this skinny pale king child,
said Sayus, arguing with the dwarf who rushed him.
Have you gone completely bonkers?
Uttered Yo.
Can't you see we were in a hurry? Don't blame me if you can't decide quickly and wisely.
The heated argument between the 2 dwarves continues. A raucous bicker could be heard around the area, causing worry to the dwarves and the little girl.
Enough!
Shouted the little girl.
Quit blabbering, you two. It still has a plump flat.
The little girl stopped her words when the dwarves were glaring something behind her. There was a man behind the tree holding a bottle of beer. He was shocked in what he witnessed. He smashed the bottle onto the tree, leaving only shards on the end of the bottle. Then the drunk man behind the little girl darted to their place trying to beat the little girl. How unexpected. There was a drunk man lying behind the bushes who heard and witnessed all what happened in the woods. Let's see what will happen next. The drunk man kept thrusting the broken bottle he was holding. The dwarves were in panic. Now, this will be a challenge for a little girl, for she was literally battling someone. Unlike in her killings, her victims weren't aware. He attacked her non-stop to hit the little girl, and the little girl kept on dodging the sharp bottle thrusting in her vision. She couldn't make a stance, for the drunk man was kept on thrashing towards her. She was utterly surprised by the man's sudden appearance. She thought they were too focused on the two dwarves' argument, which made them catch by a person off guard. Her knees were shaking because of a sudden bad situation they were encountering right now. It wasn't long before she tripped over the bushes and her lunchbox slipped from her grasp. He was about to gash the little girl, but then behind him, the dwarves came rushing towards at him with twigs in their hands. He took the lunchbox of the girl and fled from that area. He was dashing through the woods to the town of Viller. When he was in Viller, he was yelping while running towards the king's palace.
Suspect! Suspect! I found the suspect!
The royal guards who were patrolling came after him to stop him and ask queries, but he was too fast to do so. The people of Viller were alarmed by his scream, so they woke up and see what was happening. He called out the king in the palace loudly, but the royal guards were blocking him from the gate.
The suspect is here! I got the leads!
Cried the drunk man repeatedly. Until the lieutenant of the monarch came out.
What's all the commotion?
Asked the lieutenant of the monarch.
Good sir, I found the culprit behind all the missing people in Villiers.
Said the drunk man. The lieutenant's nose caught the unmistakable smell of alcohol on the man.
I see you're drunk and you're holding a kid's lunchbox. But wait, isn't it past curfew? Why were you outside?
Asked the lieutenant, doubting the drunk man. The drunk man kept on convincing the lieutenant from finding the suspect, but he didn't believe it since he was drunk. The king took a peek on the window. The king's eyes caught something recognizable from below. He furrowed his brow and squinted his eyes to convince himself that something wasn't right.
Aha!
He was right, it was the little girl's lunchbox he saw at their parade for the proclamation before. He dashed down the stairs to see the lunchbox up close. He elbowed his way to get a clear view of the drunk man and the lunchbox. They all bowed when they see the king.
Your Majesty, I may be drunk, but I am telling the truth. The little girl is the culprit. She was with the dwarves,
said the drunk man. The king was standing up high whilst furrowing his brows.
Open the box,
ordered the king, and the drunk man followed it. They retched as the odor of the human meat whiffed on their noses.
Humans?
Said the drunk man in surprise.
To arms! Gear up!
Shouted the king, commanding the troops. The sound of the disturbing horns could be heard all around Viller. Most people of Viller even joined the mob with pitchforks and torches. Meanwhile, the dwarves and the little girl departed. The dwarves were unpanicked, thinking either to arm themselves or to flee from the town. The little girl darted to their house and called out the attention of her family.
Listen, take all the money we got and flee from this place. We have our own ship to use, so there's no need to worry.
Uttered the little girl, rushing in her actions.
What's going on?
Asked the mother. She told what had happened back there and they began to lose themselves.
How about you? Come on board with us.
Said the mother.
I will, but I have to get my friends too. But listen now, if you see the torches getting closer, you cut the mooring light. We just get in the second ship we have.
Told the little girl, as she sprinted out the door with a dagger in her hand. A swift like a thief stealing while they packed their gold coins. They put all the bag of coins and chests full of gold coins on the ship, and boarded the ship. It was all neat and ready to go. The mother was holding a dagger to cut the mooring line, but she was still waiting for her daughter. Sheena arrived at the secret passageway of the dwarves' village. She was telling the dwarves to come with her and they will be saved, but they were all in panic. Upon seeing Wanjie, she instantly called to him.
They weren't listening. It's only you and me to save our lives. Come with me and you'll be saved.
Uttered the little girl. The little girl and Wanjie were the ones who ran away together through the ship. However, the lancers blocked the way using their lance. Now, they were surrounded by the lancers and nowhere to go. The angry mobs were also getting in the same path. As the angry mob's torches hit the eye of the mother, she hesitated whether to cut the mooring line or not. Then one of her sons suddenly grabbed the dagger and cut the mooring line.
She's going to make it, Mother. For now, we have to go,
told the little boy. But that was the biggest mistake that the little boy could do, or is it? The dwarves, and the little girl and Wanjia were captured by the troops. A chain was warped all over the little girl's body, then she was carried away with 2 lancers holding the chain from both sides and hanging her from below. The dwarves were forced to enter their houses and put a long tube in every hole in their village. Their secret passage was also discovered, for they scattered in their bases. Now, they were grouped into 2 groups, Team Dwarves and Team Little Girl. The people on Team Dwarves had a special mask covering their faces, as they will plant fumes inside the long tube through the dwarves' village, trying not to let the fumes escape from the openings of their village. The people on Team Little Girl had lit stacks of hay, for the little girl to be burned alive. The monarchy was on the Team Little Girl, watching her to be burned. The Team Dwarves started throwing the fumes in each tube of their village as they caged all the dwarves, and then watched it from a distance to ensure no dwarves could escape their death. The Team Little Girl started circling around the flaming haystacks, and flung the little girl wrapped in a chain in the middle and intimidating her with their pitchforks. They gradually narrowed the hole up as they chant for the little girl's death. In the final act, they skewered the little girl with a pitchfork and held her before the inferno of hay. They chanted loudly as the little girl squalling in pain. The mother and her sons with their bags and chests buffed with gold coins fled the town. The mother looked so worried, but she didn't know if her daughter was still alive or not. The angry mobs didn't see the little girl's family fleeing with their ship, so they escaped the town unbothered. As they receded into the horizon, they beheld something strange on the sky. Rising from the inferno, the smoke took on the eerie shape of a skull. That was enough to feed their curiosity if Sheena was going to come after them or not.